Okay, for this project we're going to create a simple scene exploring some of the different tools here in Blender. So I'm going to start off with just the basic scene with the cube. Okay, I'm going to add some of the mesh objects. So once again, you can go to add, go to mesh, and you can add them this way, or you can do Shift A. So I'm going to add in, we already have the cube. I'm not going to do the circle or the grid, but I am going to add in the plane. So you can see when I added in the plane, it adds it right here at the origin, right in the center. I could click and drag right away by doing G, but with the plane it's okay to leave it there. I want to make it really big. This is what everything's going to sit on. So I'm going to hit S to start scaling. I'm going to scale it nice and large. Okay, then I'm going to do Shift A again, and this time I'll add in my UV sphere. Notice once again it's in the middle, so I can hit G right away to grab and start moving. If I want to constrain that to the X-axis, I can type in X to move forward backwards. I think I'll do Y and just slide it off to the side. So I could keep doing that with each of them, knowing that they're going to go to the origin, or if you want to specify where it goes, you can actually hold Shift and right click, and notice how it moved that point. So now if I do Shift A and add the next object, let's see, that's going to be the icosphere, it puts it here instead of where that one was. So let me go to Shift, right click, and I'll put the next one over here. And I'm just going to keep adding in each of these. Okay, so I've added all of them. Now what I want to do is kind of position these and set up my scene. So I'm going to hit 1 on the numpad so I can view them from the front. And I know that that plane is right here on this axis. If I rotate a little bit, you can see that that plane's right on that red line. So I know that I need to line all these up. So I'm going to start moving these. Once again, hitting G to grab them. Okay, and then I'm going to take this torus and I'm actually going to rotate that, so that is R. There you go. So now it looks like they are all sitting up there. It looks good. Now from the top view, so that's 7, I'm going to grab them again and then kind of position them all relatively close together. Okay, so now my scene looks like this. So if you need to pause the video and set up your scene so that you have the different objects in there and group them somewhat close together, and then we're going to start looking at the lighting and the shading. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to the shading tab. So up here at the top, here's my shading tab. Okay, so this is what my scene looks like shaded. Now the view that we're in right now, if we come up here to these little circles and hover over this one, we can see that this is viewport shading. The next one to the left is just solid shading. This would be my wireframe. So we jumped into this viewport shading. We'll come over here, rendered here in a second, to actually look at the actual lighting. But you can see that this adds some scene lighting. It actually adds in this whole scene. We can kind of see, and we can change that scene. That lighting that it's providing right now is coming from that scene. So it's not actually our light that's providing it. So if I were to grab that light, hit G and grab it, and move it around, we can see that it's not affecting the scene at all because the light isn't actually what's providing it. So if I come over here to the rendered view and now grab that light, you can see that this is what it'll actually look like rendered. So I'm going to go to 7 and drag that light in front of them, then go to 1 and try to get some somewhat dramatic lighting here, and let's see what that looks like. That looks decent. If you want to, you could even drag it down here so that the light is coming from a lower point of view, but entirely up to you. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the viewport for right now, and I'm going to add some colors. So if I click on the cube, you'll see down here in materials, it has a preset material and it is white. And you'll notice all of them white. However, if I click on Suzanne, you'll see there's no material. Icosphere, Torus, etc. None of them have a default material. So what I need to do to add materials is I need to select an object, click New, and then click on the white color here under base color, and it'll bring up your color wheel, and you can start dragging around until you come with the color that you like. And then you just repeat that process for each of the shapes. So go ahead and add some colors to each of these. Now if I want to change the base color, I can click on the cube and I can change that base color as well. And if I want to reuse one of those colors, if I click back here and instead of hitting new, I click this little drop down, I can see each of my materials. Now my materials, I did not name them. They're just material 1, 2, 3. That may not be overly useful. Fortunately, it gives me kind of a preview of the colors. But as I created those, I could have just clicked up here and I could have typed in an actual color name, which I don't know what that is, maybe salmon. Or for the name, you could actually just do like, this is Suzanne. So you can name it based on the object or an actual color, and then when I go to another object and I click the drop down, that might be a little bit more useful, easier to tell which color is which, especially when you start adding a lot of colors to a scene. So I'll just make this one, the same color as Suzanne, and then I'll add a new color for that one. There we go. So each of them have a color now, and while we're at it, may as well add a color for the base, because the plane can have a color as well. Grayish color for that. Then if I go back to this, we can kind of see how all the shadows are being filled in on the base and how my lighting is affecting each of the colors. Now everything is very low poly right now. So let's say like I want my sphere to actually look like a nice smooth ball. Well, what I can do is go back to my layout tab. I can select the sphere, right click on it, and go to shade smooth. And then when I come back to my shading, we can see that it looks much nicer. Now you have to be careful with that, because let's go back to the layout. Let's say I do the same thing for the cylinder, shade smooth. See how that edge kind of disappears depending on the view? Let me go back to shading so you can see that. So my edge completely disappears. That is obviously not desirable. So there are times where instead of the shade smooth, what you'll want to do is do the shade auto smooth, and then notice how this front plane got shaded nice and smoothly, but it kept the edge. So that is an option as you use these existing solids. Then if I want to prepare my scene for actual rendering, I'm going to want to position these. But remember, we're viewing with the camera, so if I say position it like, I don't know, maybe like this, and this is what I want rendered, but then I hit 0 on my numpad, that's what the camera is capturing. So what I need to do is hit N on the keyboard, and N opens up this little side panel. We can also open it by clicking this little arrow right here, but it's just a lot easier to use N. And then under the view options, what I want to do is come down and find the camera, and I want to say camera to view. I'm going to check that. Then I'm going to kind of position this the way that I would want it rendered. And then after I do that, I will uncheck this. I'll hit N to close it. So now let me hit 1 to go back to front view and mess my view up completely, and then I'll hit 0, and it did not save. Okay, let me try that again. Let me go into camera view. I think that was my mistake. I wasn't in camera view to start with, and then I'm going to hit N, camera to view. There we go. Now I'm actually seeing how I'm shaping it in the camera. So make sure you go into camera view before you do this and don't mess it up like I did. There you go. So let's say I want my render scene to look like that. Now I'll uncheck that, hit N. I'll go back to front view, camera view, there we go. All right, so I have that set up. Now I'm going to go back up to my lighting and check out my lighting. If I want to make any adjustments to the light, I think I want to, now that I've got the camera view set up, I think I want to move that light a little bit. I want to make sure Suzanne is lit up nicely. The others I don't care as much about. And then if I want to render this, a quick render can be done just by hitting F12 on your keyboard. And there we go. I now have my image. And then to turn this in, all you'll need to do is just go up to Image, Save As, save this in your Google Drive. So from here you can see all of your computer drives. So if I go down to my Google Drive and then my drive, etc., I can save it and then turn it in. So that is it for this project.